All Streets Gourmand is constantly on the move. This time we are focused on the outskirts of Miami, pressing the limits of their free trolley system, exploring its nooks and crannies. Stick around as we learn some ways to take advantage of Miami's vibrant public transportation system and enjoying some of the foods along its way. We take public transit to Little Havana and to its extremities, the very southern point of its service. Of course, we're here for the flavor, so we're going deep onto Cuban staples, taking a walk through the streets of Little Havana and doing as much as we can for our stay. All Streets Gourmand.
Everybody, this is Jack with All Streets Gourmand out here in Little Havana in Miami. Just hanging out, trying to check out a couple of foods. We did want to check out El Pub restaurant, which has some very traditional Cuban food. So we definitely wanted to try that out first. We're also waiting for the bus behind me, so I might have to hop on there in a second. But so we're out here on a Sunday. It's a beautiful day out in Miami. It's been raining off and on throughout the day. It feels great for the time of year.
The Little Havana trolley route goes across two main strips, Flagler Street and Southwest 8th Street. We wanted to start on 8th Street because we were planning our visit on two places in particular, the Little Havana Visitor Center and right across the street, the El Pub restaurant. We have to highly recommend walking the colorful and lively streets of Little Havana. Your walk will be accompanied by live music and the smells and sounds of cooking from dozens of spots along the main strips. We did not find one street that did not have music playing, and not one street did not have the enticing smells of its food. So as you walk, keep an eye out for the places you want to check out later or immediately, but we're off to the Little Havana Visitor Center first. As you'll learn quickly, not only is Little Havana pedestrian friendly, but it is also trolley friendly. Trolley is free, and therefore it is tourist friendly. So just keep an eye out on the very distinctive signs and stops. On your trip, you'll be able to walk or take the trolley at your leisure, letting you focus on soaking in the local flavor. We highly recommend hitting the Little Havana Visitor Center first, right along Calle 8 or 8th Street. It's not only a great place to get a coalesced snapshot of the area, but there is also beautiful merchandise there too. And keep an eye out on the details here. They've got little tidbits and photos on the history of the area wrapped around the entire spot. Little Havana, although originally a primarily Jewish community in the 1930s, grew into a Cuban enclave due to the fall of democracy in Cuba in the 1960s, with many seeking asylum here. And as you all know, we do our research before heading out, making sure we give ourselves plenty of very solid options. In this case, the spot for us literally just steps away from the visitor center, and in want of very Cuban dishes and a wide menu was a spot called El Pub. This restaurant has been family owned and operated since 1996. The family patriarch, Goyo, started the restaurant with the idea of realizing the American dream for his family, and now there's 3 generations running the restaurant. As you can see by its menu and its location, they offer a wide swath of Cuban dishes. And for your visit, because their service runs from early breakfast all the way to late dinner, you'll be able to visit them any time of day. Now, our approach when we're in places like this is to go for those options that we typically can't get in our neck of the woods. Being in Florida, being in Miami, being in Little Havana, we're very excited to try some very traditional local dishes, some for the first time. So for our starters, we went in on 3 items, all came out at the same time. The sopa de plátano is a traditional Cuban stew. It's a base of mirepoix. So you're getting your carrot, your onions, your celery, along with their take on sofrito. So this one is very close to an Italian sofrito. The Cuban sofrito is typically a mixture of bell peppers, onions, and garlic in olive oil. The base is a chicken broth along with green plantains, bay leaf, and cilantro. It is absolutely delicious and reminds me of very similar island-like recipes. But this plantain soup has the richness of its vegetables and an underlying umami from the chicken, broth, and oils. This really tasted like comfort food right away. Second, sticking with the plantain theme, is a serving of fried plantanos. If you've never seen this done before, it is definitely a staple of the islands, taking green plantains, cutting them diagonally, and simply frying them. No other spices or aromatics are necessary. The plantains take on a caramelized sweetness from its frying, that carby outer layer browning with the fry, and with the heat, it gets sweeter and it softens. It's wonderful. Think of it as an alternative to French fries, honestly. They go well with everything. And our last starter was a serving of Cuban moro. This is rice and beans mixed with a bit of pork. This is black beans, bacon, green pepper, onion, garlic, along with long grain rice. It's the mixing of the black bean liquid back with the rice that gives it its distinctive coloring. Proteins mixed in with the rice are so common in island countries, it helps extend the proteins with the more abundant rice. Moro eats like a meal. And for the main event, we did a bit of research on the Cubano before we went because we fell in love with it years ago in Orlando. The Cubans call it a mixto type of sandwich. It's a press sandwich which has a couple of variations on where it actually originated. Came into dominance in the late 1800s as the technology for pressing the sandwiches rose along with it. The mixto itself is funny. It sounds very simplistic when you list out its ingredients, but it's definitely the combination of that Cuban bread coated in olive oil and heat pressed that is its distinguishing characteristic. Now, we know there are different variations of the Cubano, but being in Little Havana, we had to go with the Cubano regular. This is roast pork, ham, salami, mustard, Swiss cheese, pickles. No mayo. It's a perfect size too to take with us on the remainder of our trek for the day. So it was just a great thing to nosh on as we explored more of Miami. And the other great thing about El Pub is the live music. Even midday, they had a nice gentleman playing guitar for everyone, interacting with the customers. It kept the dining room very lively. And we found the restaurant at El Pub is very stylized, like many in Little Havana, very open with indoor or outdoor seating. If you need to make a decision on where to eat, chill, or you're gonna just go party, look for places with the live music. It'll make your experience more personal and more unique. But all in all, El Pub is a great place to start a trek in Little Havana.
We just left our El Pub restaurant for a delicious lunch. So we came a little bit late, a little bit bummed on that one, but they stopped the breakfast service at 2 o'clock. So totally fine. Rolled with the punches, went with the specials of the day, which was the sopa de plátano, which was excellent. I'm definitely going to look up that soup because I think it looks like it's fairly straightforward soup, but it was very filling, very hearty soup. They consider it a Cuban stew. So I kind of actually agree with that. It's very filling, very good food. Got to walk around a little bit of Little Havana, beautiful place. A lot of chickens and roosters walking around wild. We love it. No matter if you're in downtown Miami or out here in Little Havana, out in kind of the suburbs, there's chickens and roosters running around everywhere, so that's kind of cool.
With Miami, we appreciate their app and ability to access a map anytime we needed one. Their public transit is very progressive and complete, and we're sure they must be a template for other American megacities to follow. And after a day or two, it became second nature. If you needed to backtrack, it's as simple as reversing your routes. All Streets challenged ourselves for this Miami trip, so outside of exploring their trolley system, we wanted to avoid a rental car, a car service, and really just see if we can spend the entirety of our trip taking transit from Miami Airport and then throughout our entire trip. Other than getting used to the system, Miami did not disappoint. We were able to go trip start to trip end, leveraging only public transportation. Of course, having traveled from one corner of the globe to the other, every country or state has its own take on public transport. In the end, if it is done without ambiguity and is timely, you will get to your location. No lie though, it takes preparation and it takes being very present. Now, carrying luggage could be a drag. We get that, but we also did our research to minimize how long we had to do that. For example, straight lining to the hotel and dropping it off before going on to the next leg of your trip. Or places like Frost Museum. When we were done with the hotel, they actually had a place to hold your luggage for a small fee for the day. In the end, it was comparable with going with the car, and we don't say that lightly. We felt we learned a lot more about Miami by doing the public transit instead of just watching through a windshield. And then on the trolley system, we really wanted to stretch the limits of its system. And so at the very southernmost tip of its service, you can take a series of trolleys all the way to Mercy Hospital, which is the very end of the line. Our focus there was on the Vizcaya area, and the area did not disappoint. It was quiet with pedestrian paths to go from the stop toward the museum without issue. Now, the museum was closed the day we went. We knew that before we went, but it was still possible to explore the surrounding jungle-like paths and admire some of the architecture in the area. And the trek was ultimately worth it. At the Mercy Hospital and Catholic Center that they had there are wonderful views of the waterfront between the jungle and the sea. You're just going to have views that you simply aren't going to get in the city, and it was a bit of a reward for our exploring. Now, if you're interested in this route, keep in mind that it does take a while, and the further you go down the extremities of the trolley, it takes a while for the next trolley to come, but they will be there. And of course, we wanted to share this with you so you can see how far south you can go while remaining on the public transit. In this case, it was free transit back and forth to the Miami Commons. Now, one stop along the Little Havana trolley route was the world famous Vizcaya. This place has been serving classic Cuban since 1971, with the bakery added in 1998. Both have been a powerhouse in the community for decades. But because we were pressed for time that day, we were a bit bummed not to visit the Little Havana location, but Miami Airport had us covered. They have a Versailles there, so we were infinitely lucky to get a few more options before we headed back home. We were able to get a few piping hot croquettes, another cubano, and some guava pastries. Very delicious, very filling, and we appreciate Miami Airport for thinking of the tourists in this way. We hope other airports follow suit. Bring the local favorites to the airport for those that missed it, or for those wanting one more taste before heading back home. All Streets Gourmand hopes you find some solid information on your next visit to Miami, from our overview of Little Havana, the vibrant and lovely trolley system, and all the food options along the way. We also hope our public transit challenge gives you some insight on how to get around town. And you know that we're your hookup if you ever want to go off the beaten path and explore nooks and crannies you may not have thought of on your next visit. Remember to check out our YouTube channel for other ideas. All Streets Gourmand wants to be your stop when you're trying to figure out your next food adventure.
And with that, we appreciate everything that you do when you just engage with our content, period. So liking, subscribing, we really appreciate all of you. So thank you, and on to the next one.